Alright, we're working on this F250. It's a 99 and it's been doing all kinds of crazy stuff. To list the symptoms, the idle throws up around 2000. I still don't know what that's about. It's got some kind of a cylinder misfire and it's not giving any codes for it, but I know it's misfiring. Also, when you get between like 40 and 50 miles per hour, it starts to just really fish bite. You know, like when you're fishing, it tugs on the fishing pole. Like you step on the gas and it's just like da 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 da. It's almost like a torque converter shutter. And we just put a new transmission in it. The old one, I drained the fluid out of it, and the fluid that came out like mud. I mean, like glitter mud, like a brown glitter fingernail polish. It was just awful. It's really bad. What's some more symptoms that it's having? I got code P1780, and that's usually something to do with the wiring going to the transmission. It's automatic transmission. Some of you will know that by looking at it, some won't, so that's what it is. And also the overdrive button doesn't work at all, the overdrive kill or the overdrive switch. So, and when I went to take the steering column off, please notice there's no key in here. That's totally empty. And when I go to put the screwdriver up in there for the screw, if I push up on it, it dings. So I'll push up, ding ding ding, let off, nothing. So anyway, you get the idea. So that's an interesting batch of circumstances altogether. And like I say, I also have a P1000. When you look at this, the service engine soon light does come on. There is a light, and it should be on with the misfires and the codes that it has. But I think we got a wire going to the computer inside of here that's pinched on the column. We'll open it up and see if we're right. By pushing on the bottom with the screwdriver and having it start dinging at me, I'm like, man, there's probably a pretty good chance of a pinched wire. Okay, so I pulled the lower fuse panel and looked underneath of that. It just has those 4 twist pins that are on it. You see, that's what you'll see there is just where it says fuses panel. If you're Oriental like me, say fuses panel instead of fuse panel. But anyway, to take out the ignition switch to get the rest of the cover off at the top, there's a little button that's right there. Button, who's got the button? I'll show you who's got the button. If you look on the bottom of the steering column, oh crap, that came off. And it's just right up here by these wires. See that little hole right here on the cylinder where it goes? And you'll see that little button inside of there. Turn the key to the on position so that all the dash lights come on like I showed you before when the check engine light came on. And then from that point, you can grab hold of that whole thing by the black portion around the key, and you can pull it out. Now, to keep it from killing the battery, I go back in with a screwdriver and I turn not the outer ring part, that won't turn at all, but inside of there you can turn back one, turn the actual switch part. So you do that, and then while you're here with the screwdriver, push up on this little retainer here, come back around on the other side of the steering wheel, and go underneath the wire harness for your combination switch and pull that up. And you'll see that there's a wire that runs underneath of here. Like if I were to move the shifter, you'd see it move up and down. But this is, you see part of it still stuck in here. But basically this wire's become severed. And it's just this little 3-wire plug. And that's why the overdrive won't work. And when this wire's floating around free in there, it's not able to, well, what do you want to say? It shorts out. It creates all kinds of havoc for the computer. And then also you can't put it in overdrive kill when you're towing a heavy trailer, and it'll burn up your transmission. So we're going to do a little soldering repair and see if we can fix that connection there and get a good routing for it so that it doesn't happen again. Someone's going to ask me, how did you get the stick shift with the overdrive button out? And there's just a pin. I just grabbed the pin with the side cuts, and I just kind of lever pulled it, grab and lever pull, and just slid it out that way. It's actually pretty easy. It comes out the top side. So I've prepared the wires here. You can see where they've got burn marks on them from the heat shrink that was on there before. a little bit more of the wire broke off. I found some more brittle parts, so I broke that off as well. Here's the plug that plugs in as it goes to the disappearing point down the steering column. I have a large piece of heat shrink that I put on above where I'm going to do the repair. I have some smaller little pieces of heat shrink that are going to be local to the repair. So the first thing that I like to do is I'll go ahead and tin my wires first. And by tinning them, that means that you take your soldering iron and you take a little piece of solder, pin it down against the workbench. You just heat it up, and the solder has a what do you call it, a flux core, and so it just really sticks onto the wire, no problem. So I'll go through and I'll tin each of these wires. If you can heat the wire first and then add the solder, then you have a lot better result and it turns out nicer on your camera or your video you're making. I'm burning wood here. Alright, so that one's done. But I'll tin all 6 points. So you got 3 wires, you got 1 for each side. I'll just get them all tinned up, and then after I've got the solder melted onto them, then I'll take them and put them together, and I'll just have the solder touching, and I'll just touch it with the soldering iron, and they just melt right together. And so once all my wires are together, I'll slide each of these over, and I just go over the heat shrink with I just rub it, just massage it gently, quickly with the soldering iron so I don't burn through it, and then slide this one over and do the same thing. I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. I just discovered a new technique. I really like it. I'm going to share it in between, and that is, instead of putting the solder over the wire like I was trained to do, take the wire and put the wire on top of the solder, and then it heats it up as it goes into it. And look how nicely that tinned. I mean, that turned out just a perfect little example of what you want to have happen. Put the wire over the solder. Isn't that beautiful? And then, like I said, you just match up your wires. I'll have to turn this one over, but I put this, I wonder if this will zoom in a little bit, show a little detail. This is hard to show detail with this camera. It's hard to get the buttons to work when you got gloves on too. Flip camera, that's what it is. Flip Minnow HD. So I put these two together, and then while those green ones are together touching, you hit it with the soldering iron. Hold really still as you can while those two wires knit together, because if you move it, it'll make for a weak solder joint. It won't maintain that nice shiny strong solder. So do the same thing with my tan wire. Hold still, and then see how easy it is to get these. I mean, I don't even have it in a vise. I don't have anything really constrained, and tinning just makes life nice. I learned all these cool soldering tricks in my RC habit, or addiction, depending how you look at it, but doing all those electric RC cars and helicopters and whatnot that I like to do. I don't really get into the cars so much, but I really like the helicopters. I've got that one Tamiya rock crawler. I need to do a video on that here. Somebody saw that in the background and requested it, so I expect that in the next little bit. But you see, I'm just taking this heat shrink. That's also where I got the heat shrink. I ordered it with my hobby stuff from hobbyking.com. It's like one of my heat shrink wires got a little too close to the kitchen. Just going to snip at that just a little bit, like a chihuahua. Alright. So I've got these in place. You kind of got to hold these with your gloves, or they slide around. Just kind of massage them. Like I say, don't spend very much time at all in any one place. It's like blow drying hair. Now I sound like some kind of gay hairdresser, but I got a daughter. I do her hair sometimes, and it's just like, I don't have any hair to blow dry anymore these days, but you don't want to stay in any one place because it burns. And with this, same thing, it would burn through. But this makes for a really good repair. It really stays put and is protected and insulated from arcing against stuff the way it was. Some things, I'll tape it up or repair it, and I'm just like, kind of losing sleep over it at night. You know, is this going to hold? Is this going to work? But, you know, if you just do it right the first time, do the best you know how, then you did your best. You don't have to worry about it. That's a good philosophy of life, is that you do your best and then there's no regrets. And your best can change if you're sick. Your best isn't going to be what it was before. This is all from Don Miguel Ruiz. He wrote a book, The Four Agreements. It's an awesome book. But he makes a good point. You know, how much do we live in regret and beat ourselves up when we shouldn't? There we go. Pretty snaz. Remember that pin that we talked about that holds this in? This is what it looks like. It doesn't look a whole lot different than like a door hinge pin or whatever. And you just drop your shifter into place on the column. It's automatic transmission. And just give it a little wiggle down in there until you feel it catch. Or you can line it up by sight. Just a little hard to do with the camera present. But you just get it in there and it just drives in and clicks. And then we'll take our little wire and we'll route it. I'm going to route it around down the steering column instead of being secured in the little harness under here. That was just too much of a tight bend for that to maintain. I'll probably unbuckle this little clip down here and just have it be more of a straight shot going down, and then I think it'll last a little better. This vehicle already has 148,000 miles, so we'll see if we can go another 148, get up to 300 or so. People are laughing at me because it's a Ford, but I've seen it done. So anyway, then I'll put the cover on, put the ignition in, and try it out from there. In the meantime, I'm just going to screwdriver this into the run position and just see if I can get this overdrive light to turn on and off. Because see, there you go. It's actually on the column, but it's up and functional now. So I'll put the rest of this together, take it for a test drive, and just see where we're at from there. Pardon my dinging, but pay attention to this wire right here. That's the one that we just fixed. See how little movement it takes for that? But if it's secured up into this thing, then it's a lot worse. Also, another thing is that the indicator on this would never really be on park very well. And so what I've done with that is I looked underneath of here, and there's a plate. This is the cable. The shift cable goes down and behind the gas cable, or gas pedal. And it was actually, you see those Torx bolts up here? There's two gold ones. It looks like a face with a nose in the middle. The bolt to the right was really, really loose, and the one on the left was a little bit too. Or I guess the one at the bottom of the frame, because I'm holding the camera crooked. But tighten those up, and that'll help with that a little bit too.